Where were you in March 2020? Do you remember? On March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Within days, governments across the world announced a state of health emergency with mandatory lockdown, which meant working and studying from home for many people. As a senior consultant, helping large organizations plan and roll out the digital tools for employees to work from any location, I had a front seat to how that would unfold. My client then was a large French company with thousands of employees across France. They thought they had working from home sorted. The technology was in place, some of it state-of-the-art. But in spring that year, what we found is that of all staff, only 1/3 could work from home at full capacity, a figure which is consistent with a survey from that time by Stanford University. As my team scrambled to roll out the effective tools for people who had difficulties working from home, I started to notice a few patterns about them. And I was struck by the realizations that the working from home solutions that I had been building up to that point were always meant for only one type of person in mind. You see, before COVID, those who could work from outside the office were also those who had been approved by their hierarchy. It would therefore not be of surprise that most of them were statistically more likely to be highly educated white men. There were, of course, the mothers who worked from home in order to better care for their children. But that was usually seen as not being compatible with a career progression. So when it became clear that working from home would become standard for most people within many organizations, I kept wondering about those for whom that type of arrangement was not meant. And I decided to research the experience of minority professionals working from home during and since COVID. And this research led me to the deep conviction that we must rewire the way we approach diversity and inclusion in today's hybrid workplace. Because what I learned is that the experience of a minority professional working from home will depend based on the level of which they can express who they are when they engage at work in what I call rituals of informality. In case you're wondering what rituals of informality are, let me tell you that if you have at least one colleague or classmate, you probably engage in them multiple times every day. At the coffee machine, cigarette break, lunch table, or after-work drink. There are the in-between moments where we're invited to no longer be strictly professional and instead relax and share about our more personal aspect of our lives, like chatting about the past weekend or future vacation plans. They bring a personal touch to work interactions and have been linked with collaboration and the creation of new knowledge. But because they're also extremely codified and tacit, following the norms of the dominant group in an organization, for minority people or anyone who does not feel aligned with the mainstream, those rituals can also feel like minefields. Because in matters of diversity and inclusion, culture is strategy for breakfast. In other words, it doesn't matter what statement an organization puts on their website or how many anti-discrimination charters they sign. if the conversations that routinely take place within those rituals of informality are racist, sexist, homophobic, ageist, or derogatory in any other way, then any pretense of equity or inclusivity is at best naive. So to go back to the experience of minority professionals working from home, let me walk through the stories of 3 people I've met during my research. The first one was Henry, a manager and out gay man who routinely came to work with his suave self. Within the daily chit-chat, he had created work interactions that were both authentic and enjoyable, and he would often share bits of information about his life with his partner as a way to socialize and make work more pleasant. That is not to say that his work was completely free from discrimination or microaggression, but he could respond to them and move on without feeling personally threatened. During COVID, he experienced the similar challenges that we can all remember when we think of the lockdowns, but nothing more. And he even viewed that period as one that provided him with great career opportunities. Then there was Marco, another gay man in an international organization. But while he was out to some of his more open colleagues, he had kept his sexual orientation secret from most and approached rituals of informalities by remaining vague about himself and instead maintaining the image of a hardworking expert. However, for him, the price of silencing significant aspects of his life was deep inner conflict and stress. When COVID happened, he was so afraid that his colleagues might accidentally hear or see his partner during video calls that he made them both move house, not just once, but twice. Eventually, he realized that this was not the life that he wanted for himself and his partner, and started to disengage from work, seeking instead interactions where he could be more fully himself. And then there was Lucia, a black woman who at the beginning had tried very hard to fit into her traditional work environment by adjusting her behavior, appearance, and language to seem more professional. However, because of what she experienced as the daily onslaught of ignorant prejudice, she had slowly started to grow tired of those informal work interactions and felt the need to avoid them. When COVID hit, she found that working from home without the expectation to interact and socialize brought incredible relief to her mental health, and she fully embraced it. But that led her to a situation where she was no longer in the loop for interesting new work opportunities, slowly slid into a boring routine, and eventually was let go. So now let's bring those 3 stories into the world in which we live today. In a recent survey of US companies, resumebuilder.com found that before COVID, less than 10% of companies monitored their staff when they work from home. Today, that number is 96%. And that includes 1/3 of companies where employees are required to be watched on live video feed in their home during work hours. The survey goes on to say that the reasons why companies do that is, 1, to maintain productivity, and 2, to encourage employees to return to the office. That second reason is an interesting one because it has now been demonstrated that given the right equipment and resources, people are actually more productive when they work from home. So here I would personally argue that what companies yearn for in the aftermath of COVID isn't so much productivity, but rather what people call team spirit or culture. That it isn't so much about making employees come back to the office to sit in front of the computer all day, but rather to have them re-engage rituals of informality at the coffee machine, corridor chat, or gossip over lunch. With this in mind, it is not hard to see how people who come to work with their full self, like Henry, will find little hesitation in coming back to the office to interact with colleagues and their manager, and that relationship building will lead to more trust and autonomy without the need for monitoring. But how much additional stress would being monitored at home bring to someone like Marco, who's not out at work? And how would someone like Lucia, for whom informal work interaction represent additional strain to her mental health, react to being pressured to return to the office? My belief is that the COVID pandemic has uncovered one of the fault lines of organizational management. That despite decades of emphasis on diversity, relationship and trust building had been critically neglected. And that we're now staring at a ticking time bomb of historical proportion of burnout and mental health issues for which minority professionals who cannot express who they are when they come to work will bear the heaviest burden. In order to avoid that terrible outcome, we must rewire the way we deal with diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And for me, rituals of informality is where we must start. As leaders, we must think clearly and carefully about the type of diversity that we want in our organizations. And if diversity is what we truly want, then we must drive that cultural transformation and set the mechanism so that everyone in our organization can express who they are and flourish at every level, including at the top. As managers, we can make sure that the rituals of informality within our teams are settings where everyone feels safe and heard, and that abusive and threatening behavior will not be tolerated. And as individuals, we have the power to create new bubbles of informality in a way that avoids the sometimes soul-crushing nature of small talk. Actually, wouldn't it be nice to have more meaningful conversation? When is the last time you've had a meaningful conversation at work or school? One in which you felt personally involved, seen and heard without judgment. And when is the last time you provided that safe space, kind ear, and presence for someone? Do you remember how it felt? As the philosopher Theodor Zeldin wrote, when two people talk to each other with mutual respect, when they listen with real interest in understanding another point of view, when they try to put themselves in the place of another to get inside their skin, they change the world. even if it's only by a minute amount, because they're establishing equality between two human beings. That is the ask that I present to you today. Next time you go to the office or school, reach out to that person who, like Marco or Lucia, keeps quiet about themselves, doesn't talk much at the coffee machine, or has lunch on their own. Suspend your judgment and maybe some of your beliefs, and then change the world. One safe, honest, and meaningful conversation at a time. Thank you.